She and I divided this up and hers is the second part. And she obviously knows all the things that we're about to go through. So is that all right with folks? I want to keep everybody on schedule so we don't run over because I know everyone's busy and needs to get to their day.
Sorry, Lori, you were muted when you started talking. Well, I'm assuming, did you say Erica's not attending?
I was muted, Erin. Thank you. So I think we're just going to go ahead and start. Erica texted me and said she was running a couple minutes late. But she has been going through this with me every step of the way, so she knows what we're gonna go through. And she and I divided up what we're gonna go through today, and my part's the first part anyway. So my suggestion is we kind of stay on schedule and start, and when she gets here, it'll be probably plenty of time for her part. Does that work? Okay.
And the live stream is going and I'm gonna start recording right now.
Okay, and I will call to order the August 20th special meeting of the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors. I do not know if I have it. Oh, yes, I do. We'd like to start with the Native Lands acknowledgement. COCC would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original homelands of the Wasco and the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the US government in the Treaty of 1855. The Paiute people were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It's also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls Trading Grounds. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our community today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. May we please have a roll call, Amy?
You have Laura Cresta Cooper,
Here.
Erica Scott Rolls, Lennon
Here.
Hi, I made it for roll call. Joe Cronowitz,
Yes.
Ellen Unger,
Here.
Aaron Mers,
Here.
Aaron Morgan, here, Lori Chesley,
Here.
Zach Booth,
Here.
Lucas Hallberg, Scott Berg, yeah, Kyle Matthews,
Here.
Preston Williams,
Here.
and Amy Metcalf. That ends roll call.
Awesome, thank you. Lori, would you mind introducing Lucas or maybe Zach?
Sure, yeah, everyone, board members and Dr. Pulliams, Lucas Alberg, second day as the Director of Marketing and Public Relations here
Hey, everybody.
at COCC, getting a crash course and live stream, and that Zach shouldn't set up the Zoom and all sorts of things. And so, yeah, like nothing like just jumping right in, so we're
Yeah,
thrilled to
that's
have him, and yeah, anything you want to add?
No, I'm just very excited to be here. So it's my first stint in higher ed, but I've always had kind of a dream to come into this field in this area and came from more the private corporate world before this, but I'm super excited to be here and hopefully can help, fulfill all the goals and strategies that you all set forth and yeah, just here to be a sponge also and just kind of learn and yeah, be a part of it. So honestly, this is a great second day to meet everyone here and kind of hear some of the things that are going on at a higher level and such, and also put some faces to the names and also so you can see my face. So thank you for having me.
We're thrilled, yeah.
Thank you.
If he would have started a few months earlier, he could have been doing what I'm doing.
So Lori and I were talking with Lucas before the meeting started, and he's hearing a lot of that he's a new gen, and he said, well, soon I'll be the old Lucas, and we're like, no, you aspire to the fabulous Lucas, so that's what we're gonna see in a couple months, I'm sure. Okay, do we have public comment? I'm guessing not, but we haven't received anything on, okay.
No.
All right, so our agenda today, thank you, Preston Williams, for joining us today. Preston is, as you know, our search consultant, and he has been working with Erica and me and Lori and Zach. Lori has very graciously agreed to be involved to whatever extent we'd like her to be involved. And given that she went through this process on the other side with us, we found talking to her and getting her feedback to be extremely helpful. So that's why Erica and I invited her to this meeting to join us. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is go through the presidential search profile draft that we presented to you all, and then also the proposed committee that we're recommending. Both of these do ultimately need to be approved by the board. We're hoping that we can make whatever changes need to be made and adopt them today. But if we don't have consensus today, we obviously will schedule another meeting. We want these to be right, and we want everybody to be happy with them. Does that make sense? Any questions or concerns? Nope. Fabulous. Okay, so we sort of divided this up. Erica and I, working with, as I mentioned, Zach and Lori and Preston have put together this draft profile that we started with the last profile that we used in when we hired Lori.
2019.
2019, thank you. And then we asked Lori to provide input because, you know, the job has obviously changed as she's been here and we've asked for different things. And then we all kind of massaged it. And I have to say, while I was in Rapa Nui, by the way, fabulous vacation, highly recommend. Erica and Zach finalized it, put a lot of polishing on it. I reviewed it. I think I had like a typo or something that I found, and it was very minor. And otherwise, I thought it was great. So I'd like to give everyone, I think we sent these out to you 2 weeks ago, and then again last week. So I'd like to give everyone a chance to comment or provide input on things you'd like to add or take out or ways you'd like to change it. And so that we can kind of be, you know, methodical about it and give everybody a chance. Is it all right with everyone if we just kind of go around the room and start? So Erin Mers, do you mind being the one to start?
First, yay. Yes, I had some minor things that I could email. But bullet 4, my bigger one point of discussion is bullet 4 under challenges and opportunities to increase funding and diversify revenue streams in preparation for the ongoing shift to outcomes-based funding in Oregon. What gave me pause with this one is my understanding, though correct me if I'm wrong, that shift is like quite small, isn't that in like consideration of the overall budget funding from the state, the outcomes-based funding is quite small. Is that accurate? In which case, it just seemed odd to me to pair those together. I think to increase funding and diversify revenue streams is really important. Regardless, I don't know if it needs to be paired with in preparation for the ongoing shift. So that's my one question.
Yes, that percentage is very small at this point. It's between 5 and 10%. I think it's 5. And this language was here and we sort of massaged a little. I was the one who had an ongoing because it wouldn't surprise me to see that shift continue. But I don't disagree right now. It's a fairly negligible amount in our budget.
What if we were to say, instead of in preparation, we were to say and prepare? Because I do think outcomes-based funding is something it's a trend that's going to continue. But when I read this, Erin, it looks to me like we're saying increase funding in preparation for ongoing shift as though, or diversify, as though maybe we'll lose funding by outcomes-based, which is obviously not our.
Yeah. Oh.
No, go ahead, continue.
Oh, yes. I just feel like it, the way it's written, it's sort of like a cause and effect, and they're like tightly locked when I think regardless, we will be continuing to increase funding and diversify revenue streams, like their strong motivation because of the shifts in the state. But I just don't think they should be so closely linked. So I think your edit, Laura, would solve for this.
If we say and prepare, then what ties them together is they're both related to money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good point. Thank you. What else you got?
Nothing.
You were okay, generally? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I have no other comments.
Perfect. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna go around the Zoom. So Joe.
Just a few comments in regards to the working at a multi-campus institution. Possibly may consider just identifying that there's.
Joe, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you speak more slowly?
Sure. In regards to working on a multi-campus institution, we might want to consider identifying there's 4 campuses, 10,000 square mile district, and 3 counties, 250,000 people. I don't know how much you want to get in detail in this presidential profile, but people need to know that we are larger than most community campus districts.
Joe, my understanding is Preston will be providing a profile of COCC that'll have that kind of information already. And so here, what we're looking at is that this is sort of the person that we hire will have had experience at a multi-campus institution. But I think we'll make sure that the profile of the college itself has the diversity of our size and our many campuses. Is that okay if we put it there?
Well, that's fine. Long as they know what they're getting themselves into, because this is not a small district.
Yeah.
And, oh, and Aaron already covered another item, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay,
The
awesome.
This is Preston. Just want to say, as part of pulling the profile together, after you finish with this part, then we'll introduce kind of what we call the glory page, and that's the description of the region, the college, et cetera, so that, of course, candidates will be aware more aware of the institution they're applying.
Thanks, Preston. Thank you, Joe. Okay, Aaron, let's start with you, please.
All right, yeah. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all.
It's nice to be in person.
Yeah. There were a few things that I really loved about this. One, I think the multicultural or the multi-campus, so smart to call out. The rural education needs and resources, awesome. Navigating the political system and legislative process. I'm really glad we threw that in there. I thought the student housing note was something I didn't think of really on money. And the data-driven decisions, love that too. So thanks for being thorough. It's a really strong job description, I believe. The two areas that I thought we could, we might want to reflect, though also mindful we can't throw in everything in the kitchen sink into something like this. But Lori has done such great work around building momentum for workforce development programs. And I didn't see us mentioning that in here. And I wondered if we care about making sure that our next president is going to be able to pick up and lead strongly on those initiatives that have already gotten rolling.
So are you, because we do have bullet point 300 challenges and opportunities. Are you thinking that under characteristics and experience, that's where we should add something?
You're right. Yes.
But it's not there under like experience, right? I mean,
right, of having worked in workforce development in any way or led or participated in. Yeah, so I think we could, if we were to call it out down there, I defer to the experts on everything in the kitchen sink, but it seems like a good spot. Something worth putting in. And then the second thing that I think is really important is that whoever comes has some experience in leading or participating in like institutional growth around diversity, equity, belonging. That's a tough space if you don't have any experience in that work, to lead on that work. And so I'd love to see us include an emphasis on somebody who's had experience leading or participating in institutional growth around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
okay, awesome. Erica, I'm sorry.
I
You were part of
looked
this.
at
I apologize.
And it doesn't surprise me that some stuff shook out in the end because we had it was like 3 pages at least of ideas and some of them redundant. So then the last sweep was Zach and I getting it into 1 page.
I mean, it was really you.
Zach emotionally supported me during that process. But these are good call outs where maybe they had been within and then I just, when I was trying to take out the redundancy, some stuff out. So thank you. Yes.
Alan.
I'm really happy that President Chesley's here to review and comment because she'll be the type of person who'll be reading this. And it's like, well, how do you take this when you read it? when I get down to the last bullet point on challenges and opportunities, it looks like, and let's see, our partners in higher ed and K through 12. As we think workforce, this looks more academic and doesn't really call out and doesn't need to, but I just looked at it and said, well, it doesn't talk about the local workforce board or a council of governments or those other partners that really are important to the workforce connection. Not that I want to add anything, I just wanted to call that out.
I do think that the third bullet point addresses that, and maybe we could, I mean, it addresses workforce. So maybe we could say, add something about, and, coordinated working with regional partners or something like that.
Could, or else it'll just shake out, as through the process goes through and you understand us. But you have to come in about something, and that was just one of those things that
That's
went,
fair.
oh, I really didn't see that like I thought I wanted to.
I actually, well, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in, but I like that, and I think we can add it up above. I think all of these
With
comments so
bullet
far
point.
have been very, very good. Thank you.
And the other is under characteristics and experience. We embrace shared governance decision making. I know what that means. Does everybody else know what that means? And if they do, fine. Then that's what we call it.
So Preston, I understand shared governance is a term of art. And the president candidates are going to understand the concept of shared governance, though they will certainly ask us during their interviews what our philosophy of it is, as I understand it. At least this came up the last couple of presidential searches, and it's sort of a little bit like our policy of following Carter Light, right? We have to define what we mean by shared governance, but I think that the candidates are going to understand the concept of shared governance in general terms, right?
Without a doubt, that is so universal, quite honestly, that I guarantee most people will apply will really have an understanding of that concept. And you're right, they're going to want to know, how do you view that in terms of how you use it, how it is utilized there through your Senate and et cetera, and to the board.
Thank you.
And lastly, thank you, Preston, for being part of this process. You did a good process last time. Thank you for doing it again.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, did I miss anybody? Okay, so here's my suggestion. I thought these were great comments. And so what I would suggest is, if everyone's okay, is that I kind of describe the changes that Erica and Zach and I will work on, but we approve this with those conceptual changes, if that's okay. And let me read them. In the third bullet point under challenges and opportunities, we will add something about, work with regional partners on, the workforce needs. In the fourth bullet point, we will replace in preparation with and prepare. So that's to increase funding and diversify revenue streams and prepare for the ongoing shift to outcomes-based funding in Oregon. And then in the characteristics and experience, we are going to add a specific bullet point about workforce development. We'd like to see experience and commitment to that. And also a demonstrated commitment and or involvement. We'll have to work with that language on fostering institutional growth in DIB issues. I'm not saying that very elegantly, but that's the concept, I think, and we can get that. Are folks generally in agreement with that?
And then, and then acknowledging Joe's ask for the 4 campuses to permit. That'll be in the glory. Is it glory page?
Glory
Is
page.
that what- Okay, there we go.
And I do have a note about that as well.
Where's the glory?
I mean, it's my drag name. No. It's the sheet that goes with this that really talks about COCC and
Our
it's
cover
the
letter.
gloriousness of this
Okay.
college and makes a pitch for why one would want to apply here. Isn't that accurate, Preston?
I love it.
That's correct.
And I think, Preston, you could maybe help us with some of that language on that institutional growth around DEI and B from some maybe your other work.
Sure, I'll be glad to.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so could we get a motion to approve this with those conceptual changes to be wordsmithed by Erica, Zach, and Laura?
And Preston.
And Preston, and probably some involvement with Lori too.
Yeah.
I would
So
so
moved.
move.
Second,
Joe's moved and Alan is seconded. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand online.
Aye.
Awesome. Any opposed, please indicate by saying no. None noted, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. That was great. Really appreciate the thoughtful feedback and that everyone took the time to read it before we came. The next piece, which, well, that's interesting. Sorry, I was looking at the watermark.
Oh, it's just, yeah, that's my printer. Sorry, the other printer was offline.
Oh,
It says
okay.
confidential draft, this is every other letter.
I know, well, it ends AF. so-
Confidential, yeah.
You don't mind, thank you. And are you able to put this up on the screen?
Yeah, access.
Bring in the money.
Hang on, just one sec.
Oh, he has no stack.
So cryptic. Pardon?
It looks cryptic, like.
I know, and it ends with AF.
We're okay with this being on live stream and all?
Yeah, I know, that's why I didn't say what it means.
I think so.
But look, I have young daughters, not young, I mean, like young adult daughters and. I hear stuff.
Yes, it's a very fun thing. My printer has done that for years. When there's a watermark, it does every other letter. He's never been able to figure it out. And this morning I couldn't link to our other printer because my computer is having fun this week. So that is really funny. I didn't even notice that. Said to just to you. I did, but Outlook is being, again, very slow for me. So.
Okay, so you were sending it
It's
to,
on its way to Amy.
Okay, and I think, two more, you have the pile.
Sure,
Stack.
you bet. Aaron.
Thank you.
so I don't think you have to have it in front of you for me to give my little part of the preface. Which is, we need to appoint a search committee to assist us in the selection of the next president. And just to recap the discussion we had at our retreat, generally the search committee works with Preston to help us narrow down the universe of candidates who apply to the candidates that the board will interview as finalists. So the search committee will review and evaluate the resumes and other materials, the CVs and other materials sent from the candidates. We'll select a certain number to interview via Zoom. I think they're 45-minute interviews, and then we'll make a recommendation to the board of the number of candidates that we would like to interview on campus. We do need to decide that ourselves, but historically, we've said 2 to 4. Our ideal is 3, but sometimes there's like a cutoff or whatever where it's pretty clear these 2 are the best and then there's a little drop, or these 4 are the best and then there's a drop. So we need to be prepared. But when they do come on campus, it's a big investment. It's a 2-day investment and it's a ton of staff time and expense. And so we want to make sure that they're the ones we want to interview. So the search committee's work is really important. And a big part of that is making sure that we get the right representation on the committee. That's really important. We want to basically honor the diversity that Alan talked about, or that Joe talked about rather, in the size and breadth and depth of our community. So we started in making a recommendation to everyone. We started with the committee that we used last time, not the individual people, but what representations we tried to get. And you can see that at the top. And our goal was to have 2 from each of our campus communities, 1 from workforce development, 1 K-12, 1 employer of our graduates, 3 faculty members, 2 administrators, 1 classified, 1 SLT, 1 student, 4 community members. We wanted multi-level diversity, geographic distribution, et cetera. And we're supposed to do this in all only 14 to 16 members because we get much bigger than 16 and it gets unruly. It is better if we can stop at 15, but we can go to 16 if we need to. And Preston, I think you advised us that 16 is manageable, but much bigger than that kind of gets to be unwieldy.
Yeah, that's just been my experience from past searches and working with these group sizes. So you're at a good place in terms of your.
Okay, so I'm going to let Erica walk you through our recommendations and how we came to them. And Lori and Zach will probably have some thoughts, or I hope they do, because they helped us come up with some of these names and ideas. And then we have not talked to anybody because it's not our place to invite anybody until the board approves the committee, but we wanted to bring the proposal to you, and we have some alternate names on the bottom as well. So I do want to just bring one note to you. Some of you may note that we don't have OSU Cascades listed as having a representation. But what we did last time was have the dean, at the time they were called dean vice president, now I think they call him chancellor. And we had that person, which was Becky, meet with each of the individual finalist candidates. And they had like lunch or coffee or something, so they could have some time just to meet one-on-one. And we got some feedback from Becky, and it was a good process. So we thought that might be a good way to handle this now, and also recognize his very busy schedule too, so.
I don't think I added this, but when Sherm was hired at OSU, they did the same with me. So I met their finalists. I thought it was a nice thing.
Okay, so Erica.
Okay. So, and you've said all this, but just to like start off with the the search committee is. We chose the composition to represent who we serve at COCC. And it's a method through which we filter and a lens through which we look at the broad applications, right? So all the applications that come in. And then after much discussion and thoughtful consideration of this composition of this committee, then they recommend some finalists, and then the board decides who we bring on. And then at that point, the groups after that are more discerning of those candidates that, you know, have floated to the top of that the community has recommended. So all pieces are important in this process. And initially, you know, we need this composition to really look at these candidates from all different lenses, because any one of us, right, has a bias one way or another. So I just wanted to say that, frame it before we jump into who is on this committee or who we've recommended. And so I think first, before we look at the names, in general, it's the chair of the board and the vice chair who serve on this. There's we have a foundation board member, the faculty forum president, 2 faculty members, an administrator, another administrator, SLT member, classified staff member, K through 12 member, and we have 2 of them listed here. It happened to be, as we talk about the individuals that we chose, we tried to choose individuals that touch different parts of the community in different ways and be considerate of how we can have them represent various parts of the community, if that makes sense, for lack of better words, not the most eloquent way. Workforce development, we also have somebody from Madras, and that's High Desert ESD, and then a student. So looking at that, so the first name on the list is the board chair and would represent Prineville is Laura. And maybe I'll just read through them, and I can have Zach, because Zach and Lori thoughtfully chose some of the faculty. I'm not as close with the faculty, maybe I've met them a few times, maybe I know some good things about them, but it would be great for you guys to speak to some of their characteristics. The foundation board member is Rodney Cook. What would you like to say about Rodney?
Just that Rodney's awesome. No,
Yeah.
Rodney's been on the
Check that
foundation
mark.
board since 2017. He's a local financial planner in town. He's also connected with a lot of other nonprofit organizations and community organizations, and I think brings a kind of a broad perspective of that work, because he's so involved, Boys and Girls Club, and some others, Friends of the Children, et cetera. So he's got a great lay of the land there too. Active on our finance and audit committee as well. So it kind of has that financial perspective, which is important.
And then I'm just gonna keep reading down them, and then we can come back to any sort of questions or comments or. And then the faculty forum president, who's Sarah Henson. She teaches in human development. And then we have faculty Hal Deschaux from geology and faculty Stephanie Andre from humanities. And would you like to say anything about these 3?
I think, the faculty forum president, that's a kind of a standing role for the search committee. I've known Sarah personally and professionally. I think she does a great job, not only as an instructor, but thinking broadly about the community and the institution. Hal is a newer faculty member, just in terms of how long he's been at the college. You'll note maybe one thing for discussion later, they're not CTE faculty in these two. There are recommendations down below and some alternates, but we were just trying to think of representation of engagement, of students, of viewpoints, et cetera. And both Hal and Stephanie have stepped up for the college in other regards over time. And are, again, I hate to use the word deep thinker because we have so many great thinkers at the college, but I think would bring just a really thoughtful perspective to the process.
Can I say something about Hal, at the risk of him hearing it while I'm on? No, one of the things I really appreciate about Hal is when he doesn't agree with something that the board has done, a policy or something, or he's unhappy with something at the college, he is not afraid to speak up, but he goes through the proper channels. He doesn't have temper tantrums at all, but he's willing to speak truth to power, I guess is the way to get it. And I like that he looks at things in an alternative way and that he's not afraid to come tell us, hey, I think that I really think you should do this or whatever. And I think we as a board have valued that when we have seen it. And so we want to take advantage of that because he'll probably have a perspective that maybe some of us won't.
Yeah, and something we did consider as we were talking about these things are people that will speak up and voice their opinion. And to think bigger picture and to consider different points of view. So we want people that'll add to the discussion and be strong in their opinions.
Well said.
Mhm.
I would just add their leaders, they're leaders on campus. And that's, I think, an important quality.
Okay, so we'll go to the administrators. So we have Christy Walker, the Dean of Equity and Wellbeing, and then Amy Ward, who represents Redmond Campus Director.
Yeah, I think those kind of speak for themselves. Obviously, I think having our Dean of DEIB speaks to some of the things Aaron was talking about back in the profile, making sure our candidates know this is such a value and an import to the college. Amy, our Redmond campus workforce, MATC revitalization, she's a known community member and leader as well. So those were two, again, kind of thinking about two boxes here as with a limited search, and Lauren and Lori and Eric and I talked about, where can we get, not to overly credentialize some of these, but we have a leader and X. So, Amy knows workforce, she's in Redmond, she knows the nonprofit sector. So some of those things you're hoping you get a couple different perspectives with these names. So we have so many great administrators and faculty members. We could have probably had 50. This could have been different next week, just candidly.
Sure.
So just folks that we thought might really be good in this exact process.
Yeah, yes. And then the SLT member, we have Alicia listed.
Yeah, I think the recommendation from Lori and I there was just that she's our longest tenured SLT member. SLT stands for Senior Leadership Team, for those of you following the live stream. Also, it's really fun to talk in a public meeting about your colleagues like this. I love all of you. But Alicia just has great depth of knowledge. She also brings that accreditation lens, both from her experience here, but serving on the accreditation body regionally. So just kind of a natural fit there. And then we had Anne Marie as a potential backup.
I don't have trouble speaking about SLT members. And I love them all too. The reason I recommend Alicia is that she just has more experience, broad-based in higher ed than other SLT members. And I think another interesting thing through her accreditation consulting work, she has worked with more presidents than any other SLT member.
Great point.
And so she knows how things work at other colleges. She'll bring perspectives that I think would be important. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, depth and breadth and experience and so then for the classified staff member, we have Christopher Centers, so Information Technology Services, and we all got to meet him down in La Pine. He was our IT help.
This guy.
Yeah, so he will be in a lot of the board meetings.
Okay.
He's from IT. Is there anything else we'd like to say about Chris?
Scott's here too. We have great IT support. But again, thinking of someone who actually has a lot of interaction with the board and the president in the setup for board meetings. just affable, has some, has some great qualities that way. I think just really has enjoyed working with the board and the president. So again, and also wanting to have as much representation across departments as we could. And Christopher's in IT, again, a huge part of what we do every day. So just again, not a recommendation over any others, just someone who has that work.
Scott's nodding his head instead of shaking it, so that seems like.
He agrees.
Yeah, okay.
Totally echo that. He was also on our strategic planning.
That's right.
committee.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, has that experience as well.
And then names for K through 12, there's from Redmond and Prineville, Kirk County. So Sharon Klein and Joel Hoff. What would we like to say about them?
They're awesome.
Okay, there we go. Done.
They're, they're leaders in, they, I've worked with them both. They're both recognized, I think, leaders and greatly respected within the K-12 high desert ESD community. And I think they're smart as all get out too, so my view.
Yeah, I really like Joel a lot. I don't know, Sharon, but Joel is really great. He was the assistant principal before he got his PhD, and then was pulled up by the last superintendent to be the deputy superintendent in Kirk County. And he's got a really good community view. He and his wife are both really involved in the community, and they have kids in the, elementary heading to middle school. So they've kind of got an investment in that. So that's why I thought he would be a good person.
The other thing I think that I really enjoyed, I think this is true. I love all the superintendents, if you're listening. But Sharon and I he's been a good partner to us in Redmond, and he's been a good colleague to try to find some collaboration. He's been willing to, answer questions and work really well with me as the president. He wants to partner.
Awesome. The other reason I recommended Joel, by the way, as deputy instead of the superintendent, is the superintendent in Kirk County literally just started. And so I think she's like extremely busy and also doesn't know the community as well yet as Joel does. So that was why I suggested that.
Yeah. And as we were choosing these, right, if we came to K through 12, we would think, what areas of the district have we not represented? What groups have we not represented? Then we choose a name that fit those. So that's how we came to these. It's not out of who we like more than other people.
Because we like them all.
We like them all.
like them.
We like you all.
Absolutely.
And then, okay, so we have workforce development. We have Patricia Lucas for EDCO South County.
Yeah, they go by SLED, Center for Lapine Economic Development. Patricia's been a good friend of the college, super helpful. We do a lot with EDCO across the region. Wanting to be mindful of having some South County representation. Vicki Russell from the foundation board in Lapine had served in this way the last 2 times. So again, Patricia is, those of you who know Patricia, she's kind of a, she's just dogged in her work and really has been helpful and a partner with the college in that way too, so.
She knows workforce, and I'm partial, she comes from Michigan. But she had a strong workforce role in the state, and I just think she's super smart too.
Yeah.
And then for the High Desert ESD and Madras, Lori Danzuka.
Yeah, High Desert ESD, another huge partner of the colleges and wanting to reach again into Madras, thinking about that with our expansion, obviously. And Lori's on the board there and has a great reputation for just being a collaborator and thinking regionally. But so that was that recommendation. I think you had a recommendation there too, Erica.
Yeah, I had a good friend who recommended her as like met many categories, so. And then student, so it'll either be a foundation scholar or the ASCOCC, I always mess
Yeah,
up,
you got it.
rep.
Yeah.
And you'll work to identify them. And a lot of what we found in the past is we may have had a student that was very excited to be part of the process, but it's hard to engage long-term and fit it in. So we're hoping to be thoughtful in that process and pull somebody who can make time that isn't stressful on them or they have to miss,
But we
But it's a
really
good
like,
representation.
yeah, we really liked the idea when Zach said, we could get one of our scholarship students because that's yet another perspective. And our scholarship students, we know that they're high performing because they got a scholarship, but we also know they probably know what it's like to struggle with, how am I gonna pay for this? How am I gonna get through this? So we thought that would be a really good, when Zach said that, we're like, that's brilliant. Because in the past, we've always just asked Student Life to name somebody and they've usually just gone to student government, I think, but
And when the students show up, they're fantastic. They've always they gave great input on the last time. It just is a matter of how they can sustain over this process.
Yeah, and so if the board is good with that, we will identify that person in the next month or so after our second cycle of learning stuff.
And then we have Zach, the
And me, you
liaison.
get your stuff with me.
Okay, so now that we've gone through everything, shall I call on each person and we can talk? Or would we rather just, you can raise your hand and then we go about it that way and giving input?
let's just go around.
Okay, I'll go around. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'll start in Zoom land first. And Erin is at the top, right below Preston for us. So Erin, would you like to give some input or have questions?
I think this is an excellent list. I know you've put a lot of thought into it, and so I'm in support. I don't have any comments or questions.
Thank you. Joe?
I do not, Lori Danzuki would be a great person representing Madras and HDSD. She will voice her opinion and she's on top of her game and she's a great community activist for education here as well as in Central Oregon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe. And then Erin? Yes.
I am super excited about this committee. I think you guys have done an awesome job. Folks just touching on so many different corners of the region and roles. And I'm really, really excited and want to be in there and hear your conversations because I can only imagine they'll be super dynamic, but full faith and trust in this group to do a really excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Alan?
I like the whole group. I thought I heard Zach say, oh yeah, we also have somebody on there who hires. And it's like, well, when I think of that, I go, oh, that's a CEO or somebody who's from a big company. I don't see that. When I look at industry, and when I look at workforce development, EDCO is industry. It doesn't really focus on the other parts of the community that hires people. So, it's not completely well-rounded, but, it's important. I like the fact that you've got in your backup options Heather Fitt, because Heather is the workforce board person and she's across all of the communities in Central Oregon as well as larger than that. And it deals with a little bit more than just industry. It deals with whatever private employers want to focus on and move forward with. So I would encourage her to be someone you kind of think about. Other than that, I'm fine.
So can I jump in for a second?
Oh, yeah.
And so given the discussion that we had earlier, talking about the profile, wanting to make sure we don't lose the workforce piece, what if we just go ahead and go to 16?
That's what I was thinking.
And-
Another.
Yeah, and add Heather. And I will say that Erica is at St. Charles and Erica hires.
I do
So-
hire people. Yes.
So. And
I'm just calling that out.
They hire more of our folks than probably anybody else, I would think.
Yes, and I oversee the clinical practice and professional development department that runs the joint CNA program and MA programs.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean though that adding somebody wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah, and I like your point about East Cascade work, so.
Well, and that also shows that a lot of our programs are medical focused. And where are we going as we look at outcome-based education? We need to broaden that a little further than just that. And what are the programs? We're on the right track. We're doing the right things. We've got certificates. We're doing the things we need to address the needs of the other workforce area.
I think one of the other reasons Heather is an awesome addition, and just what you mentioned, Ellen, is she's got such a head for what's happening at the state level around funding.
Great.
She's a great political thinker, and navigator too, so
So another box. checked.
another box, an
Yeah.
important box.
I like that.
Thank you. I think it'd be fantastic to have her, and I don't think it would throw anything completely out of balance. Preston, do you have?
Your way, Pat. Yes.
Do you?
It was
do you-
that.
So if we add one more person, do you think this will be?
It'll give us 16.
Oh, no, that's not a problem. First of all, I really like the group in terms of representation. I'm always thinking numbers because one of the biggest challenges in this process is getting all these folks together, scheduling. The bigger that group is, the more difficult it's get, but 16 is quite manageable, so that's fine.
Okay, then what I would propose is that we get a resolution that approves the makeup of the committee, including the alternates, and authorizes Erica and me to contact these folks and ask them to participate. And then I think I would like to add to that in consultation with Zach and Lori, we'll make substitutes in the event that the backups are unavailable, but we'll try to get the same or similar representation.
Fine.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Someone want to make that motion?
So moved.
I will second it.
Okay, so Aaron has moved and Joe has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye, or online you can raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, any opposed, please indicate by saying no or raising your hand online. Okay, noting none, I would like to thank all of you guys for taking the time in the middle of a day to come and do this. This is really important. I know August is supposed to be our month off, but we want to get going. I do want to just go through one more thing. We are going to try to get our committee met or together and meeting as soon as possible. And with this description now, Preston can do the most important thing to get us started, which is to advertise and to reach out. I think you've already started having informal conversations with potential candidates, Preston. Am I remembering that correctly?
That is correct. Once it's listed on my website as a pending search, we start getting calls right away for this particular job. And that's, by the way, good news.
Okay, and from talking to Preston and from looking at the calendar of the last 3 searches that I've been involved with here, we are ahead of that on all of them, which is great because it's a really competitive field. Ellen, you had a question?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to, before we finish, have Preston just give us a big overview of the process that he goes through.
You just read my mind. I was going to actually ask that he kind of tell us well, you and I had talked about the process a little bit, Preston, and I think we're in agreement. Would you mind just kind of walking through it in broad terms?
Sure. Well, now you've got once you get your committee together, we start scheduling to make sure everybody is on the same page as what's going to happen when. But basically, once you start advertising, you put the ads out, applications will start arriving, coming into the college there and also to myself. What we do then is we review all those applications that come in up until the deadline, which I believe is an open deadline in terms of accepting applications. Sometimes after it's closed, if we decide to do so. Review those applications, present them to the search committee. Search committee then reviews that material. We come together for our first meeting in terms of walking through each of the applicants and determining who this committee would like to advise to bring in as semifinalists. Usually, I would expect anywhere from probably 40 to maybe perhaps 50 applications for this particular job. As we work through those, we work with the committee to, again, select perhaps anywhere from 8 to 9, perhaps even 10 to be considered as semifinalists. those individuals will, at what's going on now routinely, would then come and be subjected to a virtual interview of approximately 45 minutes each. The committee sets through those, and at the end of those, again, we gather again to determine of that group who would like to be considered and advised and recommended to the board as finalists. That usually is anywhere from 2 to 4. I recommend at least 3 because I'll tell you, it's a very competitive candidate market right now. And so when you get to this competitive group, they may be in other searches and you may lose one along the way. But anyway, once finalists are identified and again brought to the board for recommendation, the board decides to approve that list, then we go through the interview process for finalists. And that is usually a process or day or 2 days where they're on campus, they're exposed to a town meeting. They would meet, have perhaps dinner or interview by the board. It's a process that we can lay out for you in terms of what that should look like. Also exposed to the community or community members, but it will be a rigorous set of activities that they go through 1 or 2 days in length. Once that happens, then the board will then have before them a decision in terms if they feel that any one of these finalists should be granted a contract or should be selected as your president. But that's kind of a general discussion of the process. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Do we have, I understand like the open application period, like a rough timeline or goal by which we'd want this person to be hired and start?
Well,
mean,
the
will there-
process is, the timeline is going to be probably you'll have someone identified like to make an offer early next year. The recruitment process itself is anywhere from 6 to 7 weeks where you're advertising and collecting applications. Now, the starting date is negotiable often in terms of it comes along with the negotiations in terms of your contract and also when you'd like the person to start. Keep in mind that many of these individuals will be probably employed at other colleges in substantial positions, and that can be that's something that I just advise boards not to have a hard, fast, concrete date when you want someone to start, that should be negotiable, but within reason.
Thank you.
Aaron, we have Laura and Eric and I have been working on a timeline that we'll update after this meeting and send back out to the board. We're earlier than we have been in the past, but if 2018-19 is an example, the finalists were here in February. Again, so probably in the winter months, we'd have the finalists here. Lori was able to start in July of 2019. Again, that was negotiated based on her exit from Grand Rapids, but we're in a similar kind of rhythm this year. So I would expect that, if all things go well, to have finalists here between January 15th and March 1st.
And I would love it if we are able to have them in, I'd rather do our hire in January than February if we could, because I want to be ahead, because to Preston's point about picking 3 instead of 2, there's a good chance if we're not quick that one of our 3 will get an offer and leave, and then we'll be like, oh, now what do we do, right? So I would love it if our visits occurred, like the first week of January. So we'll brave the weather. Anything else from anyone?
I just had one other thought, and that is sometimes it's a challenge to really come to Central Oregon, find a house in Bend, be able to integrate. So there'll be challenges that maybe good people that we really want to interview and work with. I want another Lori who wanted to come here rather than someone who's just out there looking for a job. So maybe as we go through the process, we kind of go, okay, well, we have a challenge with this, and this. How do we overcome those as we move through the process?
Good, thank you, Alan.
They could even live in Redmond.
Sure.
Oh, kind of. We can commute. Well, I would like to thank Lori, because I know you don't have to be part of this process, and we very much appreciate your wisdom. I would like to give Lori just a minute, because I think that we should all like kind of feel good about COCC, because Lori, would you tell us about your experience interviewing with COCC, except for the weird thing of the on-campus visit afterward?
Well, even that went okay, right? I've said to both Laura, I've said to several of you, that the search process that you did when I came here was far and away the best process I was a part of. I'm not saying that there weren't other schools that followed a similar pattern, but there were certain things that I think set you folks apart. Preston's communication was just excellent. The fact that there was a liaison from the college as well, it was Ron Paradis. Ron represented the college really, really well and could share so much information and let me know what kind of a college it was. I think Zach's gonna do exactly the same thing. So I think that's great. You were very thorough. And I appreciated that because I'm looking at you guys too, right? Your candidates are looking at you and they're paying attention, just like you're paying attention to every little thing. And I remember, Ron being helpful. I remember the 45-minute Zoom call, and it was a pleasure. I mean, it really was. People were friendly, they were smiling, they weren't looking down. Laura, I think you asked, if not, you didn't ask all the questions, but
No.
different people asked questions. And again,
Each search committee member asked the same question of every candidate.
yeah, and it was just nice to meet everyone, and you were fun. It became more of a conversation. And I thought when it was over, oh, these are really nice people. I really hope I get to meet them all in person. And I would say that I thought that the on-campus interview, which was 2 days, was great. I mean, I was hoping you'd offer me the job. And I felt like I had a really good sense of what I would be getting myself into. So I don't think 2 days is too much at all. I mean, I went cross country, I met everybody, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And it was, I would have to say, it was really fun. And great questions. I think the quality of the questions, because right, your candidate is judging you by what you're asking. Like, what are the issues there, right? What's going on? And a real effort made to introduce me to many, many people. So I just thought you hit it out of the ballpark. I really did. I mean, I've already told you I didn't like the visit to my college at the end, and but that was good too. I mean, we actually had a fun time. I thought, Joe, we had a good time, and I feel like probably you all felt better about me after that, and I even felt even better about you. So whatever you decide on that is up to you, but I just thought you hit it out of the ballpark. I really did. And so I'd say do the same thing, but you all have to decide what you want to do.
And thus far, we've largely followed what we did last time. I would say, thank you, Lori. I really appreciate that. I think we all do. And like I said, we've really appreciated your engagement on this, because you've been great about, you're not like jumping in and saying you should do this. You're like, just tell me what you need, and we do. And it's been really great. And Zach, you're doing a great job. We really appreciate it. And we all owe you a debt of gratitude, because it probably would have been Jen, but she left, and you already have a full-time job. So we're appreciative that you're making the time, because this is not a small time commitment for
You're
you.
welcome. And Kyle's already been helpful and will be again, so thank you.
I was gonna
Kyle.
thank Kyle because this is gonna be a lot, and Kyle does a really good job of keeping us all organized and making sure little things don't slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I especially appreciate his attention to detail.
Same.
Like, and also I just learned yet another thing to like about Kyle. He and I share a love of heavy metal. So,
Okay,
yeah.
there you go.
Yep. And then I would like to thank Amy for helping us get all of this organized and doing the online stuff. Thank you. I know you also have a full-time job, so thank you. And Lucas, we look forward to working with you. Welcome. We're very glad that you are here. So welcome.
Yeah.
And Preston, thank you so much for being here and taking the time. We are grateful to you and we're really glad to be working with you again. And especially that you're taking the personal attention and doing this yourself instead of having one of your people, which would be easier, but we're grateful. So.
No, thanks for the opportunity and Madam President, I want to congratulate you on a very successful tenure there. And again, I'm looking forward to work with all of you so we can again find the next great president.
Thank you. Okay, anybody have anything else? If not, thank you for being here and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, so Eric and I divided up all